What's up guys, we are River, Corin and Mila. We go by the name of North South Travels.
And today we are reviewing the Volkswagen Grand California after we just spent 10 days doing this.
We have had a blast exploring the hidden gems along the Cornish coastline. We got to grips with the ins and outs of our van, got up close and friendly with the local villages, visited as many beaches as we could, we hiked, played, laughed and cried, and spent our evenings surrounded by the stunning Cornish countryside, even if the weather wasn't on our side the entire time. Here's our honest review on the VW Grand California 600.
Just to kick things off guys, we were loaned this vehicle by VW UK, who we've worked with previously actually on our NC500 last year with the California, but this time for our Cornwall trip they obviously gave us the Grand California, which we actually preferred, but we're going to tell you all about it now. So this review is our very honest review after spending 10 days with it as a family, as amateurs in van life. So there's not going to be many technicalities, it's really just how we felt about the van and what we experienced. So we're going to give you our honest review right now. Okay, so kicking things off, I'm going to first talk about how it was to drive. This is probably, I mean, not probably, this is the biggest vehicle we've ever driven, and it really doesn't feel too big. I mean, you have to be aware of the length of the vehicle, but in terms of width, it feels like any other car, and the way it handles is just really nice and smooth. So in terms of the cabin, it's pretty much like a VW car, to be honest. We've had a couple of VW Golfs in the past, and they're all pretty similar in terms of how they function, all the buttons on the steering wheel, the radio, the navigation setup, everything is very similar. I think the only difference is that I found is the handbrake is, I don't know, I've never experienced a handbrake like this one, the way it works. Okay, so with a standard handbrake, like you pull it all the way up and it stays up. With this, you kind of push the button in, lift it up, and then it drops back down. So you have to check on your dashboard if it's on or not. Sometimes it really threw me. So that was just one difference really compared to any other VWs that we've had. What's great about the Grand California is its storage. The front cabin has lots of storage. So you've got these shelving units up here that we actually used to keep Mila's reading books in. We kept chopping board in, so they were really handy. Up front, you've still got some more storage. The one thing I would say, which will be my first, not negative, but my first nitpicky thing, are the cup holders. Like, you have to have really small cups to fit in these cup holders, otherwise they just don't fit. I wish they were made a little bit bigger. In terms of charging points, you have two USB-C points right here, and then you also have two 12-volt charging points right here. Moving on to both pilot chairs. So during the evenings, we swiveled both chairs around. It really just opens up and gives you a lot more space within the main area, and then you can just hang and chill with your friends or family. Just bear in mind that when you are swiveling the chairs, you're gonna have to keep moving the chair back and forth just so you can get the right angle, and also you'd have to open the door slightly. One more thing to note is everything from the cabin forward runs off the car battery, then everything behind that runs off your leisure battery. But as you're traveling, both batteries are charging, but we're going to talk you through all the electric points at the moment in the back that only work if you're plugged in.
So in terms of other seating in the van, there are two additional seats behind. We obviously had the car seat on one of these for Mila, but they are quite narrow, and as you can see, obviously there's only two. So if you're a family of 5, this van wouldn't work for you. So that's just one thing that we would always think about when you're purchasing the van. It does, like River said about electric points, have an electric point under here, and within this storage unit here there are two USB points. This is just great for extra storage, as is this. Right now what's inside of there is blinds and a fire blanket. And this railing here is actually where you clip on the table, which is what I'm going to show you now. So the table is actually stored at the back of the van, and you always need to make sure that it's clipped back in on the bed before you start moving. One thing that I would say is that in the California van that we have had previously, the table slid behind the chairs and all you had to do was slide it out and pop it up, which was really handy. There was nothing to it. Whereas with this one, it is a bit more of a heavy duty table, but it means you have to clip it, unclip it, take it over, clip it in, unhook it, move it back, make sure that it's secured in. So it's not time consuming and annoying really, but it's just like an extra bit of a faff. once you've got it off the bed, it's just a case of getting it onto the wall. So there is like a lip on this side, and there is a bit of a knack to it that after a day or two you get used to, but you have to tilt it up quite high and pull it down. And then underneath there is a leg that really simply clicks out and then is down, and that's secure. But one other thing is, if you want to move it forward or back, you can't simply slide it like this. You have to lift it all the way back up and then move it along and move it back. And then up here there are two more additional kind of storage bins, and they're really quite deep. You can put things standing in here. We actually used one for some of Mila's toys and one for quite a lot of our food pieces that didn't fit in the cupboards. So yeah, really handy pieces of storage here. And this we'll come to when we talk about the bed. The kitchen has these two splashback covers, and then underneath obviously two hobs and a little sink, which is great. It's all you really need. You can actually cook a lot more meals than you think you can on two hobs. To work the hob, you need to connect it to the gas, which is in the boot, and we'll show you that when we go round. But there's also an additional safety feature here, underneath here, where you just twist the nozzle on and off to make sure that your gas is connected and that it's working. And then in terms of storage, there's these really great handles that literally just click in and out, so make sure every time you're driving or moving that they're always clicked in. So this one, great for cutlery, can also fit like a saucepan in there, which is what we did, and all of our knives and forks and tea towel. Next to that there are two more big drawers which are deeper, so they're really good for like saucepans, pots and pans, and any kind of big food or drink items. And then round to the front here is where you've got your fridge and freezer. So in the Grand California you have like a small bit of freezer compartment as well. So to move this, you just click underneath and pull it out. So in here it's really quite deep. You can fit a lot in here. Like we would always do a shop give or take every 3 days, and we'd have enough in here for 3 dinners, 3 lunches and breakfast, and had no difficulty fitting all of that in. So there's this bottom bit, there's also a shelf here, and then right in the top here is a drawer down to a freezer that goes all the way back to these drawers, so it's pretty deep. And then just to set the temperature of the fridge and freezer, there is a little control panel here with just a light up system, and so it's really easy to see whether it's getting colder or warmer. This is just decoration, but this bit does actually pull out just for increased work surface. What would be good if it kind of came out and popped up, because that kind of drop-in level is a bit annoying, but nonetheless it's good for a bit more space. Then under here is like a little secret cupboard. We actually didn't have to use this because we weren't camping in sub-minus temperatures, but we believe, and we were told when we took the van out, that if it does get to below freezing, this device helps you to evacuate all the water from your pipes, so that basically you don't get frozen pipes, because we know that that's a huge issue with van life if you are in freezing conditions. So this little beauty is worth knowing about, and make sure that you find out a lot about this if you are going to be camping in cold places.
Moving on to the control panel, which you really want to know how to use, but it is relatively easy. So you have, the first option is your lighting, which I don't know, I'm not too sure about this option because there are light switches all around the van. So we didn't actually use this once, we just used the light switches that were all around the van. Moving on to camping mode, this comes on when you're hooked up to electricity. So it kind of just deactivates certain things in the van and lets the van know that you are stationary and you are camping. So little things like there's a step outside that always stays out when you're in camping mode. The orange lights when you lock the car, they don't work, they are deactivated essentially. Just little tiny things. The temperature, this is one that we did use quite a lot. So if you click through to temperature, you have heating and you have AC. I don't think this van has AC built in apart from at the front like a normal car, but with the heating mode, if you select heating, you can then go in and adjust your temperature. You also have water heating, so you have 2 temperatures that you can heat your water to. You have 40 degrees and 60 degrees. I think we showered a couple of times in the van. We mainly showered on campsites, but we always set the hot temperature to 60 degrees. It normally takes around 30 minutes or so, 30 to 40 minutes for the water to warm up, so just bear that in mind if you are going to be using hot water. And then the last menu for temperature is where you can select how you want the heating to feed off of. So at the moment it's selected to diesel, so during the night, I guess if you're wild camping, you can select diesel, so your heating would be running off of the diesel. But because we were hooked up most nights, I mean I'd say all nights on this trip, we used to select the electricity, so that would be running off the electric instead of wasting our diesel. Coming back into the main menu, you have your water tab. So you have your fresh water and then you have your grey water. And I think it's really cool that you can actually see the levels, not just the percentage. And another cool feature is if you are filling up the water tank by yourself, you can select this here, tank control. And I don't know if you can hear that almost tapping. So when you're filling up, if you leave the door open, as the percentage is going higher, this noise gets louder, so you can actually tell how far the water is going up. And then moving on to battery. So this battery is your leisure battery. So once you're plugged in, you'll see these bars charging. They'll keep going up and down. And then you have your remaining time here of what your battery has got left. And then for the final tab, you have settings. There you can just adjust your date and time. There's an entertainment system, Wi-Fi if you've got Wi-Fi in here, if you've got a sound system built in, or even if you've got a satellite dish, if you've got a TV built in, I guess. There's also a feature for the step. That's one feature we're going to move on to. We did have some problems with the outdoor step, so we'll talk about that shortly. Okay, control panel finish. We're going to move on to the bathroom. So this is the bathroom slash wet room, and honestly, it's genius, I think. It's really great. So you've got your sink here, so this pulls down. You have your tap here, which also doubles up into a shower. So that comes all the way out and then just goes up there. Over here you've got some storage, then also behind your mirror you have extra storage. We used to keep all our shower bottles and things that we didn't mind getting wet on this side, and then everything that we wanted to keep dry we kept behind the mirror. Down here you've got your toilet, and you've got a little storage cupboard here as well. So in here you've got your loo roll. Guess that's all the piping and waterworks for the toilet. And under here was an additional shelf. So in terms of the toilet, you have this lever here. Every time you use the toilet you have to open it and close it. And then up here you have your flush, which if you have fresh water, this is what the flush uses. You've also got 4 hooks for towels and anything else that you want to keep dry. And then also up here you've got an additional window that opens up when you have a shower. Open it up, let some air in. Just remember to close it before you drive off, because you don't want that flying off. It has one air vent at the bottom next to the toilet, and when we were plugged in at night, obviously we'd have the heating on because it was cold at night, but this room literally turns into a sauna and it just dries everything. So your towels are dry in the morning. Mila would be jumping in puddles and she actually went swimming or whatever. Her swimming trunks were wet, so we used to just put everything in here overnight, and in the morning everything was bone dry, which I think is just a great feature and a central room in the van.
So then onto the bed at the back of the van. This bed can actually stay down and should actually stay down, especially when you're traveling. It does retract and there are straps to keep it in place, but because of the weight and when you're moving, it's safer to keep it down while you are moving. It's actually quite comfy for a van bed. It does have these really good springs underneath that just give you a bit more comfort, and then really thick foam mattress. There are quite a lot of plug points around the back of it as well, which is great. So when you're in bed you can obviously plug your phone in, but there are 2 plug points here, and then on this side there are 2 USB points. And then in terms of storage, as you can see, this whole back bit is surrounded by storage, and they open really quite simply, just a little hook to have bottom and top, and that's the same the whole way round, except for this big one at the back. This one actually has a netting, which would be preferable if that was on all of them. So I actually had this one during our trip, and it's great because it wraps around both sides, so it's deceiving. There is quite a lot of storage in there, and having this extra net just meant that little things like socks didn't fall out, which might sound silly, but it's annoying when you open your cupboard every day and things fall out, things fall down. So if they all had nets, like, it would just be a lot better. So obviously storage comes all the way round, and then just before you reach the end there's actually a little rail here for hanging stuff, and it's a bit deceiving. It doesn't look like it fits a full-size hanger, but it does. One thing to note, like when we first looked at the van we were like, oh, is there going to be enough storage, all our clothes and things, but actually there is more than enough. So for example, we've just been away for 10 days and there's obviously 2 adults and a baby, and this was more than enough storage for all of that. We actually had a few spare cupboards, and the only other additional thing that we had on was one small suitcase, but that was empty, and that was more for packing. If we were staying a night in a hotel, we could just take out a few pieces, put them in the suitcase and go to the hotel. I think there is definitely more than enough storage here, but you do actually have additional storage underneath here, which we're going to show you now. Also, completely forgot to tell you about it when I was doing the kitchen, that there is actually an additional area for like a chopping board. You just push down and this bit pings open. It's a bit weird that it comes onto your bed, but anyway, you just kind of, we pushed across our duvet and then just had this out, and I put my chopping board on here and just was able to have more space for chopping up all your fruit and veg.
Okay, so first up, I'm going to show you how to move the bed back. So when you lift this up, you have these clips here and another one here. Obviously you have your mattress here, but with the mattress here, because it is thick here, they don't actually clip together. So I don't know, you guys tell me in the comments if we're doing this wrong, but the only way we found that we were able to clip these together and keep the mattress here was to fold this down almost in half, just so we could get the clips to reach. So yeah, I don't know if we're doing it right or not. Again, tell us in the comments, but it just feels like it should be a lot more seamless than trying to fight with your bed to hook it up. Maybe we should actually take the mattress out and put it up on the top bed. But again, like, it's just extra hassle, where I think if there was a little bit more thought behind the design process, it could have been done a lot better. Okay, so you got two sliding boards here. I'm guessing they're for protecting this area. Like if you've got suitcases, maybe if you've got a pet or an animal, then they're kind of confined to this space. We actually always kept these off, and then we just stored them at the back. As I said, like, because we had so much storage up here, that meant we had hardly anything down here, so this was pretty much empty. So starting in this cupboard, this is where you keep your gas bottles. So with this van, there are actually two places to store your gas bottles, which is great. So you can keep a spare one and the one you're using. Again, like, I know over here Corin showed you the lever to turn the gas off when we're driving, but even just as an extra precaution, we always used to actually turn the gas bottle off from here as well when we travelled. In this cupboard opposite is where we have our electric cables, we have our blocks. So these are just to level out the vehicle, which really you don't think about. Is when you go to a campsite, or even if you're wild camping, you just want your vehicle to be level. Like if you're cooking, or even when you're sleeping, you don't want to be on a slant. Okay, so last cupboard is where you have all your electric fuses. So your electric box, everything electric runs through these boxes up here, but also just some storage. So we actually kept all our shoes in here. One more thing that's stored under your bed, next to your gas bottles, is your fresh water tank. So we actually filled up for the first time and it just poured out because we hadn't closed the valve. So if you are looking for your fresh water tank, it's under your bed. A really cool feature on this van, which we didn't actually use because it was freezing and we didn't go surfing, is this. So you have your outdoor shower. So this actually connects to here. So you just screw the shower head onto here and you have an outdoor shower. And then one more thing, you actually have a 12 volt and a 3-pin plug under here as well. Another great feature that VW have are the outdoor tables and chairs. So they're stored in the doors of the boot of the van. And then just up here you have your pole for your awning, which is on that side, which again we didn't use because the weather definitely wasn't on our side for a lot of the trip. Moving back inside, we're going to talk you through the blinds. So from the cabin back, they have these really cool blinds that are inbuilt. So you simply just slide them up, which are great, and they're completely blackout. You really can get a good night's sleep. Alternatively, if you slide the top one down, it works as a mozzie net or a bug net, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that's a really cool feature if you have the windows open, which they also have across the main door, which is super cool. You slide it across. At the back, on the doors of the boot, they also have them. I think a great thing about this van is how much light it actually lets in, so it makes it feel even bigger, which is really nice because they have these two skylights as well that really help, and they have the two built-in blinds also. So for the front windscreen, it's this massive curtain, but I don't understand why they haven't got the inbuilt blackout blinds, which would be so much more helpful. But I don't know if it's got to do with the engine or space, maybe. I guess there's some logical reason why they don't have them. For the front windshield, we have this big old thing that actually hooks around the sun visors. Okay, so then these ones are the side ones. They have little magnetic strips that simply hook around and then just stay up, and then they're just super easy to take off. Just to note, these blinds and the front curtain are not blackout, but it never felt too bright at all. Plus we were up at like 7:30, 8 o'clock every morning, and it's kind of just actually a nice way to wake up with a tiny bit of light coming through, just to get you going for the day.
Okay, so then in terms of lights in the van, dotted around are these really handy kind of light bars, I guess you call them, and you literally just touch sensitive, and they also brighten and dim as you hold your finger on the touchpad. So that's really helpful, and they're dotted all around the van, around the bed, around the cooker, and even up by the workspace and in the top bed, which we're going to show you now. There's actually also a light strip outside, so if you've got the doors open and the awning out and you're sitting out there into the evening, you can put the light strip on, and we'll show you a picture of it here. Okay, last thing in the van is the top bed, which is actually a double bed, and it's really simple to take out. It was perfect for having Mila up there. First of all, you have to unhook this ladder. So it's just hooked on there for extra security whilst you're traveling. It's really light, it's really simple, and you just pull it down before you start to move the bed. Okay, so really simply, you just push this button in and you pull, and it rolls along this bar here, and there's another bar here, and you just keep sliding it out. It's really simple, there's not like a knack to it or anything. And then on this side where we were talking about the storage units before, this lever flicks down as just an extra support for this side of the bed. And then to just extend the bed where the gap is here, this last part of the bed flicks out, and there is actually a little knob on the underneath that slots into a hole on the ledge, just so that it keeps it extra secure and it's not going to move anywhere. So the ladder comes folded in half, so to use it you simply just flip out the bottom half and pull it up, and then with these hooks here there is a handle on the edge of the bed that these neatly fold onto, and then that's it. Nice and safe and sturdy ladder to get you up to the top bed. So once you're up here, it is actually really spacious. There's not tons of height room, but that's to be expected with a top bed. I'd say it would fit 2 children perfectly. Maybe it's enough space for 1 adult, but Mila absolutely loved it up here. She was safe as of the net, which I'll show you in a second, and it just was kind of like her little space and her little den.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The netting that you can choose to or not to put up. We obviously did choose to put it up because Mila's only young and we just wanted that extra security knowing that she couldn't fall out. It's really simple. You just attach it underneath the bed on one end, and then there is dedicated areas. So there's a hook on the wall here, and then there are 3 pegs that hang from the ceiling, which is what these clip into. And then you just really simply click 3. And it takes no time at all, and then she's really safe and she's not going to fall out. And then lastly, there is another skylight here, which again has the blinds that we were talking about earlier, and both skylights have the function of opening. All you do is simply wind the handle and you've got a bit of breeze.
One quick thing to note as well is when you're going to bed, they have an extra lock right next to the bed, which is really handy. So when you go to bed, you can just lock the doors. You don't have to go all the way to the front just to lock it or come back. There's one right next to your bed.
So let's move on to the outside. The first thing is the step, which we mentioned earlier. So as soon as you open your van and you open the door, the step should come out. And like I said, we've had a bit of problems with ours. It seems to be a little bit slower, but we do get there eventually. So there is one final thing about the kitchen which you can't use when the door is closed, but when the door is open, you can pull down this side, which we've just been calling like the outdoor bar, and it also has a 3-pin plug and 2 USB ports.
Okay, so there are 4 main points of call on the outside of the van. First one is your water tank. So I believe it holds up to 100 litres. Again, drop it in the comments. It's got a secure key in it, just so you know no one puts anything in it. You have your hook up here, so this is where your electric point goes in. Well, if I can get it open. Once you're hooked up to electric, just pops in there. Little tip, make sure your covers are always clicked in. We were driving on the motorway and we just saw something flapping in the wind mirrors, and it was this, and we had to stop. So just make sure every time they're clipped in. There's your toilet waste. So all your toilet waste is stored in here. We had raw, no number 2s on the van. So that made my life a lot more enjoyable. So underneath here is your grey water tap. So you simply twist your tap and all your grey water comes out the pipe. Just make sure when you're emptying out that you're above a drain. Okay, so would we recommend this van? Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's only the second time that we've done van life, and as you all know, we did it in the California last time, and this is obviously the Grand California. And just in terms of size and space, this just worked so much better for us. With having Mila with us as well, we could have the car seat, we had loads of space underneath, as we've said about the storage and the double beds. So yeah, it's a winner for us.
All in all, it was great. Like, it really did not feel like you were driving a lorry either. Like I said, like the vehicle's so slim, and we managed to get through like some really one-track lanes on this trip. It was perfect. It was the perfect size for this kind of trip. I think for a family of 4, the perfect vehicle. Yeah, I think you're gonna have a good time in this van.
Yeah, I will actually be sad to hand it back over tomorrow. I feel like I've become attached to it and would like to keep it. So I hope that this has inspired you to either try out one for yourself of this van or any kind of van and just get out there and give van life a go.
If you've made it this far, guys, we really appreciate you watching this. We'd really also appreciate it if you would subscribe, drop us a comment below. We'd love to connect with you guys, and give us a thumbs up on this video. It really does help us on the old algorithm, and we will see you next week.